Hello everyone, Ian Smith here with FedSmith.com. If you're new to the channel or you're not familiar with FedSmith, we're an online news service for current and former federal employees. Our mission is to bring you timely information that impacts your life and your career as a federal employee. And today I want to talk to you about the significance of locality pay. Here's something that a lot of federal employees don't think about until it's too late. Take two GS-13 Step 5 federal employees. Same grade, same step, same number of years on the job, retiring at the exact same day, or on the exact same day, I should say. But one of them is going to collect over $5,300 more per year in retirement than the other. And it's not because they worked harder. It's not because they had a better performance review. The only difference is their zip code. That's the power of locality pay. Today I'm going to break down exactly how it works, what it means for your retirement, and what you can actually do about it. Here's a quick refresher for anyone who needs it. If you're on the general schedule, your total salary is your base pay plus a locality adjustment. That adjustment is a percentage that varies depending on where your official worksite is located. It's based on how federal pay compares to private sector pay in your area. It's not based on cost of living, which is a common misconception. Right now, there are 58 locality pay areas. The lowest is the rest of U.S. category at just over 17%. And the highest is San Jose, San Francisco at over 46%. And here's the key detail. Locality pay counts as basic pay. That means it feeds directly into your retirement calculation, your life insurance, your leave payouts, all of it. Let's take a look at the numbers. These are the 10 highest paying locality areas for 2026 using a GS-13 Step 5 as our benchmark. San Jose, San Francisco is way out in front at over 46%. And that translates to nearly $151,000 a year at GS-13 Step 5. New York, LA, Houston, and the DC area round out the top 5. The average salary across these top 10 areas comes to about $139,000. To keep that number in your head, we're going to compare it in a moment. Now here's the other end of the spectrum. The rest of the U.S. category, which still covers a large share of the federal workforce, sits at just over 17%. The bottom 10 areas are all clustered between 17 and 18%, and their salaries are all tightly grouped around $121,000. The average across these bottom 10 is about $121,300. Now compare that to the top 10 average of $139,000, and you're looking at a gap of nearly $18,000 a year at the same grade and step. Let's put the gap in real terms. On average, a GS-13 Step 5 in one of the top 10 locality areas earns almost $18,000 more per year than the same grade and step in the bottom 10 area. Over 5 years, that's roughly $90,000. And if you compare the absolute extremes, San Jose versus the rest of the U.S., the annual gap is over $30,000. And over 5 years, that's more than $150,000 in additional earnings at the same grade and step. That alone is significant. But where this really hits home is what happens when you retire. Here's where it gets serious. Your FERS retirement annuity is calculated using a simple formula. 1% times your years of service times your high 3 average salary. If you retire at age 62 or older with at least 20 years, that multiplier goes up to 1.1%. Your high 3 is the average of those highest 3 consecutive years of basic pay. And because locality pay is included in basic pay, it flows directly into that high 3 number. A higher locality percentage means a higher high 3, which means a higher annuity, and that annuity is what you collect for the rest of your life. Let's run the retirement math. Using the top 10 and bottom 10 averages at 1% times 30 years of service, the employee in a top 10 locality area retires with an annuity of about $41,800 a year. The bottom 10 employee gets about $36,400. That's a difference of nearly $5,400 a year in retirement income. And remember, this is permanent. Once your annuity is calculated, it doesn't change based on where you move afterwards. So if you collect that annuity for 20 years, the employee in the higher locality area receives over $107,000 more in total retirement payments. Same grade, same step, same years of service. So what can you actually do with this information? There are a few important things to know. First, your high 3 does not have to be your final 3 years. It's your highest 3 consecutive years of basic pay whenever those occurred in your federal career. So if you spent time in a higher locality area early in your career, those years might still be your high 3. Second, and this is the strategic play, a late career move to a higher locality area can raise your high 3 and permanently increase your retirement annuity. On the flip side, transferring to a lower locality area in the years leading up to retirement can actually drag your high 3 down if those become your highest 3 years. And here's the part that surprises a lot of people. Once your annuity is computed, it's locked in. Where you live after retirement has no effect on it. So some federal employees intentionally work their final years in a high locality area to maximize their high 3, then retire and move to a lower cost of living area where that money stretches further. It's a legitimate strategy worth thinking about if you're planning your end game. And there's one other thing that's worth keeping in mind as we go forward. I did a video on this recently, which I'll leave a link to in the description, so I'll keep this brief. But President Trump is expected to issue an alternative pay plan before the end of August. And the White House's budget proposal for 2027 was silent on the issue of a pay raise for civilian federal employees. So presumably that means there will be a pay freeze next year for the federal workforce. However, last year we were in the exact same situation because there was no raise put forth in the budget, but then when the alternative pay plan letter came out, President Trump ended up proposing a 1% across the board pay raise for most federal employees with no locality increase. And so a similar outcome is possible this year. Additionally, the budget proposal includes a pretty significant raise for members of the military, a 7% pay raise. And so far, Congress hasn't moved to override any of this. But stay tuned to FedSmith because when that alternative pay plan letter does come out, we'll be putting out a lot of information on it, letting you know all of the details as soon as it's available. So here are your takeaways from this video. Locality pay isn't just a line on your pay stub. It's one of the biggest factors in what your retirement check ultimately will look like. The gap between the highest and lowest locality areas translates to roughly $18,000 a year in salary and over $5,000 a year in your retirement annuity. If you're years away from retirement, this is worth factoring into any decisions about transfers or relocations. And if you're getting close, take a hard look at your high 3 and understand how your locality rate is affecting it. I've included some links in the description to related articles on FedSmith.com that go into more details, so please check those out. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video helpful, please subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Have a good day.